Outpacing VirusTotal, redefining trusted threat analysis and intelligence. That's what we're here for today. And with me today is Igor Lasic. He leads our technology initiatives here at ReversingLabs. Igor, how long have you been at ReversingLabs?
It's approaching 10 years, 10 fun years.
Been here a while then. You've been here like from the beginning. Like you're like OG.
Yeah,
And
one of the OGs here.
and you've held many executive technology management positions in public, venture-funded, IPO companies. You've got 20 years of experience, a lot of those here, in early-stage companies and delivering products, whether it's SaaS or on-prem. And Igor brings experience from telco, from enterprise, medical, served as a VP of engineering. You've been around and got a lot of experience. So really great to have you here today. And I'm Knox. I'm a senior cyber strategist here at ReversingLabs, specializing in software and file security. Previously, I was a engineer for a long time. A lot of automation, platform, Kubernetes, security, all that fun stuff. And in another life, I was even a high school teacher long before tech. So great to be here, and great to have this discussion today. So let's start with ReversingLabs at a glance. So we are the trusted authority in software and file security, with solutions that have continually improved over the last 15 years. Our threat repository tracks over 40 billion files of both malware and goodware. That number continues to grow, with our threat research team methodically analyzing and categorizing new instances of malware and goodware daily. RL has the broadest file coverage in the industry. We're able to unpack over 400 file formats. That's a lot. And identify more than 4,800 file types across Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. So we're covering the full spectrum there. So, and this puts our 40 billion file repository over 8 times larger than our closest competitor. Igor, do you have any other comments that you want to point out on this slide about us?
Yeah, I mean, if you look around shows like RSA, Black Hat, you'll most of the cybersecurity companies you look at on the show for are powered by us. So we are recognized as that sort of power behind the scene. Size matters. Threat intel corpus size matters. You want to make sure that you have ability to search really giant data sets. So to protect yourself, both sort of going forward and to learn about attacks that might have happened in the past. So you definitely want to have the breadth and depth that we can provide. Some of the file types we cover, we analyze, other people's don't, both in terms of the actual file type and the file size, as we'll learn more as we go through this presentation.
Yeah, and just to add on to what you were saying there about at the shows, I know at RSA this year, I would talk to people and say that I was with ReversingLabs, and they would say, "Oh yeah, we use ReversingLabs. Oh yeah, we have them inside our product." So I was amazed at the number of companies I talked to that do use us under the hood. So our agenda today, real quick here, we're going to talk about malware visibility gaps. We're going to talk about digging deeper into these file structures. We're going to talk about the need for speed and scale, orchestration, hunting with power and precision, and the power of custom threat intel. And I just want to real quick talk about this visibility thing for a second. It really is important, the importance of in-depth visibility. You might be able to get a list of some files that are bad, or you might be able to scan some files and know that something is not right. But that's normally the tip of the iceberg, knowing where it came from, why it's bad, how it affects me. All these things are very important. And so it's very important that the tools that we have are able to give us that in-depth visibility. So analyzing what VirusTotal can't. Tell us about this graph, Igor, and tell us about some of the findings that we've been able to discover as we've compared the two.
So first of all, in terms of file types, there's some relatively obscure, like everybody's familiar with documents and executables, but even in those, there are many nuances about the what can be analyzed with common set of tools, including VirusTotal, is in what cannot. You will find that there are threats coming down the line that are either repeated or brand new using the file types that are not ordinarily analyzed. HTA comes to mind, uh, Microsoft Note, things of that sort. So with us, you get visibility into those more obscure file types that are commonly not analyzed, but are still can be threat carrying. Size matters. A lot of we are seeing a lot of bad containers out there
Mm.
uh, on the regular repositories. We are seeing people pushing malicious virtual machines. Those types of sizes are commonly not processed by common cybersecurity tools, and that's another advantage we have. And again, back to the size and volume. We process tons of files, not just malicious ones. We also track all the regular shareware, goodware, sources such as Microsoft. So with us, not only do you get a verdict about something's bad, you can trust us to cover something, to tell you that something is good. And this complex objects analysis, again, same thing. Like we can go to the depths of uh, um, files that other tools can't. Some bad actors really try to hide the malicious files very deep into the file using all kinds of obfuscation and compression methods. We try to get them all out.
Yeah,
And finally,
I think it's important to.
the software.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's important to point out that it's so cool how we're able to take these larger complex objects like an ISO, like a container, like you mentioned, and we can open it and then recursively just keep going all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it's you will not define this type of coverage with your common tools. Some of them stop at a couple hundred megabytes, some of them stop at tens of megabytes, but you really need something that's gonna go deep. And lastly, just want to comment on this classification. We have a team that their whole job is to classify files. So not only you don't have to kind of create your own verdict around files depending on whatever signals you're getting. You can trust us to tell you sort of top line if something's malicious or not, or at the same time if something is good or not, because we track both.
All right.
Back to you.
Well, let's move on to our next one here. So AI-driven malware detection at speed and scale. So you were mentioning the different file formats, but one of the things that I think is fascinating is that just what we even go through to identify a file format. Like we're verifying that the file format is what it says it is. I mean, just because a file has an extension that says it's one thing doesn't mean that that's what the file is. So um, we go through all these steps, and I was hoping you could take a moment and talk us through these steps that we go through when we analyze.
So so this is basically these are basically the steps we took for each unpacked file. So simple example is a zip file. Imagine there is thousands of files in there. For each of these files, it takes us 5 milliseconds to go through these steps. We identify the format, and it's a little more complicated than you might think it might be, especially when you get into trying to figure out this is a programming language or a shell script. So we've developed machine learning modules to identify file formats many years ago. And obviously use the patterns like the other tools, but to much deeper and degree, because this actually is our work to identify them. Then we go in and unpack, see there is files contained within the object. We extract metadata, so we tell you everything we know about the file, about its structure, about whether something's odd. Sometimes you see that attackers append bad sections to the end of the file. We will tell you if that's the case. We also have a very good, very correct and precise similarity algorithm. We pride ourselves that it's best in the business. For executables at this point, Mac and Windows and Linux. Not only will it tell you if this file is similar to others, it would also tell you if it's similar to malicious files. So we use that as one of the methods. Finally, we enrich the whatever we found with threat intelligence data back to the size of our corpus, and so we perform the reputation lookup for each unpacked file. Back to the zip example. No, excuse me. So each of those thousands of files are also enriched with the threat intel data. So that gives you another layer of protection. Finally, we gather all this information. We found all the steps performed and give you a final verdict in the file.
And I think it is important to point out, like we said, that this is happening in for these files most of the time in milliseconds.
Yeah.
Right. So so we've got our AI-driven binary analysis, and these are the steps here, and we see that we've got some great speed on it. So the next question that I feel like, and especially for me as a former platform and automation guy, I want to know, how do I plug this into my other systems? And can I plug my other systems into this, and can I start to integrate this into other workflows that I have?
Right. So as most of you know, a product in cybersecurity doesn't live in isolation. You have to be plugged into the ecosystem, both in terms of finding the sources of what you want to analyze. In our case, both file and network, network information, and then you need to be able to push that to various systems. So we are very much aware of that. In addition, having threat intel feeds is important. That give you signals about the file or network indicators that could affect you. In our case, we take these many millions of files that we process every day, and we make separate feeds for various use cases. For example, we have a set of exploit feeds, so you can see sort of industry-wide what exploits are actually being exploited. And we can give you a feed about that. Or if you're in a particular industry, let's say financials, we can give you a feed only about threats like that. And for cybersecurity vendors, it's interesting for them to see what are the overall US threats so that they can increase their coverage. And you do always have to have sort of a correct file set that you can use for detection. Make sure you don't have false positives. So we give this like really large range of feeds and overall threat intelligence, so that you can create both your custom protection, and then you can follow the latest threats out there.
Excellent. Can you can you go just a little deeper on this file and network intelligence? Because I was understanding that, and I think this is something that people don't understand that we're capable of, that we're able to see where a file came from and then be able to actually check other files that may be in that same repository out there, as far as trying to be able to get the intelligence we need about the source of where these files are coming from.
Yeah, sure. So again, like cache a file in isolation doesn't tell you much. It just tells you like, okay, you might be affected, you might have found it in your environment, but it's really interesting when you start combining data with other sources. So not so we can tell you a lot about the file. We can tell you where it came from, as Nox said. We also have extensive network threat intelligence. So you can create a graph and connect all these data points together, which again is interesting and actionable. So knowing who is trying to attack you is important,
Yeah.
especially when you have to engage with law enforcement. The more data and the more connections you can make your own on your own, the easier their job is and yours. So if you can track the file from to its origin, then it's sort of easy to create the network level IRC protection through your firewalls or proxies so that you are protected and you're not affected any further, or even doing that proactively. So we definitely track all those connections, and we're talking about petabytes of data and billions of connections.
Nice, very nice. So it's more than just scanning, is what I'm getting at. That we're getting you data that goes far beyond just scanning a file that's just sitting in place. All right, and so privacy by default. I think this is something that I had to have my eyes opened about, because for years, I mean, I feel like it's been decades. It probably hasn't been that long. It's just because everything moves so fast that you were just it's kind of pounded into your head. Oh, that file is fishy. Upload it to VirusTotal. Like that's just a constant like thing that I feel like has been beat into our heads for a while. But I had never thought about the privacy implications of that until it was kind of presented to me. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, VirusTotal relies on crowdsourcing. That's what they do. And as Nox said, industry is kind of being taught to really share. Um, and that's not necessarily a good thing all the time. So there are many examples about people uploading to VirusTotal when they shouldn't. And trust me, there are bad guys on VirusTotal that latch onto the recent file feeds and try to figure out what's in there. Um, we have actual examples of that happening. Um, with ReversingLabs, you don't have to have such worry. We only sell to and work with trusted partners, and it's a closed environment. Um, and so the files are totally private to you, and that's important, obviously. Otherwise, you have to train your folks what to share and what not to share, and sometimes things leak, and they
Yeah.
will be found.
Yeah, the interesting things that I was reading about was the idea that one, by accident, people accidentally either upload something they shouldn't, and then everybody can find it. And the other thing that I was reading about that I hadn't realized was that the bad actors that are out there are actually putting exfiltrated data back up. So they're actually uploading the exfiltrated data back into VirusTotal, and then it becomes like a cache of a place where if you know how to search for it, you can start harvesting things out of there. So, and I didn't realize that a lot of companies even run their own Yara rules with their company names or various patterns from their company to get alerted if something has been leaked up into that repository. So it doesn't seem like a very safe place to be uploading to. At least you need to be very careful, and that by default, everything's just public that you upload there.
Right.
All right, so now let's talk about I just kind of mentioned Yara a little there, and so let's talk about that. We have a high performance, low latency API access in our ReversingLabs, but some people may not even be quite familiar with Yara. So I'll let you Igor talk about this graph here.
So Yara is effectively a search ability to search. So you can make your own rules based, as Knox was saying, on your company's information. It could be as simple as looking for company name or a set of executive emails. So you can, and the government agencies in the US also publish their own rules. There's several repositories where malware researchers publish their rules. So it's basically another layer of protection in addition to your AV scanners and such that run on the endpoint. We see examples of people running all the email, all the incoming files, all the network-borne objects, scripts, web pages, everything through Yara roles to basically find patterns that would not otherwise be found. So think about it as like a Swiss Army knife, and that can find, well, maybe not Swiss Army knife, more like a precision tool that finds you things that would be otherwise missed. Uh, so sometimes AV vendors don't necessarily tell you much about why something is malicious or not. Yara rules can be made very specific, so you know exactly what happened. And again, size matters. Having a bigger Yara corpus you can search through uh, lets you more about lets you gives you more information about what you're looking for, and having more historical data is also important because some attacks happen over and over again. Some attack patterns happen over and over again. So with us, you can find those things.
The the searchable files, I feel like Yara is more of an art form than an exact science. And I feel like one of the reasons you may say, well, why does it matter so much to get more Yara examples? But it feels like when you work with Yara, it's a refining process. You write a rule, you get results back. You're going to have to refine that rule and try to weed out more false positives or get more get better results back. Is that the case where we have to keep? It's not like a one shot and you're done with Yara.
That really depends. A lot of I mean, we also power probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 out of the top 10 banks in the world. So those guys are really interested in exactly what you're describing, Knox, about refining the Yara rules and making their own. So they are really, those guys are really passing everything through Yara just to find those things that they otherwise wouldn't. However, a lot of the other organizations just take the rules from the three-letter government agencies and
Mm.
deploy them. That type of coverage you just can't get with other tools. I mean, because you know, the three-letter agencies will not send rules to a commercial AV vendor, but they will provide them, and they will tell you, oh, there is a particular um, attack campaign happening. Here are the YAR rules that you can use to track that to see if somebody's attacking you. So Yara really is essential, but again, you do have to have expertise. We can help you with sort of putting the infrastructure in place, and again, depending on the level of sophistication, you can write your own or take the ones that are provided by agencies or provided by malware researchers.
All right. And we're going to park here a little on this this daily sample ingestion here because we see here that the results comparison between ReversingLabs and VirusTotal, and this is going back 6 years, suddenly drop. And so it appears here that you're not getting a full view of all the files with VirusTotal, but that instead, as time goes by, you're reduced to a subset.
Yeah, big data is really difficult. With VirusTotal, we don't obviously know exactly what they're doing. However, we know from testing things that they're coverage for historical files drops off significantly after, let's say, about a year. We pride ourselves at the ReversingLabs as being a big data company, and we are like elephants. We don't forget. We just keep the data for as long as we can, pretty much from the inception of the company. Again, why is this important? So there are attacks out there, Quackbot being one of them. They're multi-year. So if you don't have access to those early file samples, then you can't necessarily create protection for yourself. You can't necessarily get and understand why and where has this happened, back to the sort of the tying all the data points together. So AV vendors also, there's just limited space, and they have a limited space and sort of performance window in which they can operate before they start impacting performance of user experience. So AV vendors reduce coverage for all threats. They only focus on a certain window of threats that they can handle, again, given those performance constraints. So size matters, length of time matters, history matters, and again, back to the coverage. So we can give you that. And this is an example of that power. So if you wanted to understand, let's say, Quackbot, what happened to it many years ago, you can come to us. We'll find these things, and therefore help you both cover yourself and create future protection.
Yeah, the bad guys, I think, hope that everyone will forget about various attacks and pull them back out. Like, hey, it's been long enough. Let's pull this back out of the hat and see if we can catch a few more with it.
Right. Definitely happens. You see it over and over again.
So I've heard this phrase before with RL, and I know what it is, but I don't know if everyone here understands even what a retro hunt is. So before we start into this, can you explain what we mean by a retro hunt?
So the retro hunt is you basically create the Yara rule that goes and searches through historical data. This is just for comparison. How many more files would you get with us than with VirusTotal? So and the length of time it takes. So basically, say, oh, here's a Yara rule. I got it from somewhere. I wrote it myself. Let me see how it behaves against historical corpus. It also is helpful in sort of this iterative process when you're building your own. You want to match the Yara rule against really large data set to make sure that you don't have a lot of false positives. As we all know, false positives are more signals, more alerts, more work. So you want to have a big data corpus to refine your rule so that your rule is exact.
And it also feels like sometimes something flies under the radar for a long time, and then finally it's revealed. However, security researchers, somebody ends up finding out that something has been lurking for a long time. And it feels like this is important to be able to look back through however long, 90 days, 6 months, a year, because maybe this thing has been out there in the wild and just nobody had caught it for a while. So it feels very important to be able to run these rules against files further back if something maybe has been hanging around, but we just actually found it.
Right.
So now when we did these comparisons here between ReversingLab and VirusTotal, we wanted to make sure that we used a Yara rule set that was not biased towards either one, towards VirusTotal or towards ReversingLabs. So we went out and we used Valhalla Nextron. Nextron is a security company, and they maintain this public. You can Google it right now, Nextron Valhalla and GitHub, and the repo will pop up immediately, and it's just a publicly accessible set of rules, Yara rules from them, and we ran those against both ReversingLabs and against VirusTotal. And our guys who were running this broke the rules down into 3 different sets here, mainly because it's a very large. I was talking with our guys, and it's a very large rule set, so we needed to break it down into some pieces. But you can see here the run times. That's the first thing I'm gonna point out, Igor, is that the run times for these seem pretty drastically different. We were able to run the rule set in 1 hour and 20 minutes. The VirusTotal runtime was around 420.
Yeah, speed matters. So especially when you're running this iterative process trying to make the rule better, you want to have as many of Yara retro runs during your workday so that you can make this rule better. So if you look at these results, you can see with VirusTotal at best you can do 2 runs, one in early in the morning, one kind of midday. With us, you can have more runs, which means more ability to filter out what's unimportant and make what's important better.
And yeah, it also feels like if you do find something, you have a whole lot more time to react to it than the other. And then the results themselves, we were coming back with more results, and able to just kind of able to look over the results, and it feels like have a higher quality of results.
Yep. Yep.
So let's look on here to our next one here, the bottom line. So I'm going to let you kind of walk through here, Igor, and tell us what you think is important from this particular graph here on the bottom line.
This is basically a summary. We give you more results per API call. There's some clear advantages in terms of the RA, the results that get back, and the size of the files that we process. Again, you will see that as the file threat landscape is changing, actors find different avenues. So really, one of the avenues they found recently is containers. They can be big. You will not be able to search for that with VirusTotal. We process more files a day. Again, that's important. The coverage, depth, the breadth. We have the in-house malware research that VirusTotal doesn't. Your files are secure with us. We don't share them. And for some folks, it's really important to deploy things on premise. You can definitely do that. We do it every day. And also be air gapped. So you can package up our entire threat util repository and use it on premise and never go out there in an air gapped environment. And another thing I'm proud of is we have excellent customer support, customer technical support. They really do a lot of work and help our customers every day. That's another clear advantage.
So tell me just a little more about what's involved with if I am, let's say I'm in the financial industry or in some industry where I do want to have, I try to stay air gapped as much as possible. What is involved in being able to have RL set up in an air gapped environment?
So we would ship you a virtual appliance that contains all the data, and then sort of a processing engine that talks to it. So, and then you can throw all your files at it and process millions of files a day if that's what you need to do. We are seeing that again, the financials, which are somewhat on the forefront of cybersecurity, are definitely in a mode where they want to process millions of files a day, everything they see. And doing that on premise, even better. There are definitely places where, for privacy reasons, they don't even want to leak the hashes, the file hashes they're looking at. So not only it's important to be sort of in the air gap environment, privacy is also a concern. Some folks don't want to even share hashes with us. So in that case too, having your own threat intel repository is important.
Yeah, that's great. That if it's a privacy conscious industry or company or organization, we're able to meet that need, and that's great. Let's keep going here. Let's see.
Yeah.
I
So
think we've
again,
talked about some of these, but let's
yeah,
dive in here.
yeah. So top line classification, we take this multi-point approach, running through the algorithm, which is updated on a regular basis based on our research. You get top level classification. You don't have to go and sift through the data, make your own assessment. We'll give you the top line assessment for what to think about your network or file data. File types, again, there are hidden threats out there and they're hard to find. You do need the
Yep.
file type coverage that you can provide. The depth of the, again, if you, in threat intel world, in the cybersecurity world, you do want to learn more about the file, the network IOC you're looking at. We have ability to search through our entire history, over 40 billion files, for data elements to find you those needles in the haystack. More files analyzed per day, same thing. We'll tell you if something's good, we'll tell you if something's bad, and on a really large scale. We've also seen customers that throw, I mean, everything at us. This 100 gigs is one of the 100 gig file is one of the things we've seen, and we can process that, and we can tell you what's in it, and you can trust it. And some of the other folks will just say, okay, like the AV vendors, just because they can't necessarily handle this size. The binary analysis we have is really, really powerful. And it gives you depth and breadth of coverage you won't otherwise find. And lastly, yeah, we just keep all the data, everything we've seen, which is important. We are seeing old attack methods coming up again, and we can show you them, and you can protect yourself.
And I think I'm gonna because of my background again, I'm gonna harp on this in-depth file deconstruction. You know, there's a lot of talk in cybersecurity about shifting left, right, and trying to find threats earlier. And what I have found is that there are some times when people will just try to say, well, that file's just too large, we're going to have to bring it in, and then once it's in place, like that container, then we'll scan it, or we'll crack it open, and then we'll scan it once we install it on that VM. And the thing that's dangerous about that is now you've brought it into your environment, and now you've cracked it open. And sure, your plan is to scan it now that it's out there. But man, wouldn't it be a whole lot better to just continue to shift left and scan out as early as possible before you even have to deploy that, and make that, like you said, size really is important, and you can't let that be a limiting factor. And well, we're just going to throw our hands up and say it's just too big. We're just going to use it anyway, and then try to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. We've seen many attacks, many, like people are now sort of realizing about this potential of third-party software ruining in their day. SolarWinds Day was definitely ruined by third-party software they installed. So we are seeing that people are increasingly interested in analyzing both sort of the on the producer side to make sure they don't ship something that's has malicious components, and on the consumer side, a lot of folks use our products to ensure whatever they're installing is malware free. And we are one of the rare people that can actually do that. Back to our sort of complex binary decomposition engine. It is a very important attack vector.
So we'll bring this home, and then we'll open up for some questions for everybody. So really what we're saying is that it's apples and oranges, trying to compare the two. We have a depth of analysis. We've got unmatched recursive deconstruction and binary packer support we've talked about. We have a breadth of analysis with the widest coverage in the industry for file formats and file sizes. We've got the speed that we've talked about. We're faster than the other vendors, our ability to analyze files in milliseconds. We've got the accuracy of the analysis, verified threat verdicts based on multi-factor classification algorithms in the largest private repository of malware and goodware. And we didn't even really dive into too much the crowdsourced aspect of a VirusTotal and how the analysis they're getting is from whichever particular scanner of the like 90 scanners or so, or 90 plus scanners they have. You're at the mercy of whatever is recorded back. So I was looking at examples that when you click on the example, it shows it's bad, but there's not a lot of detail behind it. So in our case, you're getting all of the results that we have in our standard format for every file we scan. So it becomes very predictable in knowing what you want to look for and what you want to find when you are looking at those results. And then private threat intel. Assess files privately, on-prem, and classify your threats, extract your IOCs, map to MITRE, and more. And I would like you, Igor, just to kind of talk just a little bit about this before we go to the questions about what we mean by having private threat intel.
So, so if you're using other vendors, their data set is biased towards whatever they get. In VirusTotal's case, it's this crowdsourced model. In other vendors' case, it might be some collection of what they see. With us, you can actually create sort of a private repository of data based on your whatever you are processing, and search for that. So you basically are it's your own data. It's your own files that have been analyzed and summarized and reside in our service, and you can then search for interesting things in there. Interesting things, obviously, are cybersecurity threats, malicious files, whatever that may be. And you can create your own YARA rules that then are specific to your organization, that are based on your own files and not something that's out there being crowdsourced. So it should be more precise. It should be more exact for your own data that you're seeing. So that's a really powerful concept, sort of having this malware repository, having this file repository that you can search through and look for not just the new threats coming to you, but old things. So if you have this repository built by us, you can also detect latent threats that you haven't detected. Typically, you process only things that are coming at you and forward. Very rarely do you go and process things that you've processed already. We can help you look for latent threats present in your environment based on the data you gathered by working with us. So again, it's that whole concept of private threat intel, where you have this repository that is working for you.
Nice. Thank you very much. All right. And so we're going to open it up to questions. If you have a question, we've got the use that Zoom Q&A and ask your question there. We'll hang on here for just a little bit and let you put those questions in there using the Q&A feature. While we're waiting on any of those to come in, I'm going to go ahead and do a plug for another webinar that is happening tomorrow. So tomorrow we have understanding. You have the lessons of layer 8 from Dr. Jessica Barker on the human elements of driving cyber attacks. So understanding the role that the human element plays in cyber attacks is the specialty of Dr. Jessica Barker. And she's a noted cybersecurity expert and the host of a YouTube channel that specializes in dissecting cyber fraud. And tomorrow, 20 of the attendees will be chosen to receive a copy of her latest book, Hacked: the secrets behind cyber attacks. So that's tomorrow. Make sure that you sign up for that one. Okay, so let's see here. How is RL sandboxing for malicious files that appear legitimate? Can you take a stab at that one? How is RL sandboxing for malicious files that appear legitimate?
So we feel it's pretty accurate. We do have the capability, and it covers Mac, Linux, and Windows with all the things you would expect from sandboxing, like changing the geographical location and whatnot. So we feel it's pretty good.
All right. Next one here. Can RL identify AI generated malware and impersonated programs? So AI generated malware and impersonated programs.
Well, so AI is not magic. Um, it uses patterns like all the other sort of program writers. Um, so as long as you can figure out the similarity between the attacks, you can detect it. So no, it's just not going to be like 100% you. It might help in sort of the variations, but as long as we can latch onto some similarity, we can detect it.
All right. And we had one person write in and say that we had a slight discrepancy in our
Yeah.
how many of our files are analyzed daily by RL. So could you just speak a little bit? If we had one number that was around 20 million and one around 12.5 million, but I have a feeling it was more about when we're talking about here. So can you comment a little bit about our daily analyzed files?
Yeah, there's discrepancy. I really should have caught that when we were preparing. I apologize. It's probably closer to 12.5. But again, I would have to look at it contextually.
Okay.
For example, if you include both the network IOCs and the files, probably 20. But if you just focus on files, it's probably closer to 12.5.
I wondered if it was a context answer like that.
Right.
All right, I'm trying to see if there were any. Oh, I think I got one more down here. Can RL malware analysis results be fed into a SIM?
Yes, of course. We definitely pride ourselves on making sure that we work with the ecosystem and support all kinds of ingestion methods into SIM.
All right, and we have a full API, right?
And
It's
I
not
have
just
some,
fed into SIM. Like you can use it for if you have people who know how to use it, who want to incorporate that API into your workflows, you can do it.
yeah. So I mean, using API is a lot of work. We totally recognize that. We are fully API capable. However, we do have some. We also have some plugins for particular CMs. So it's pretty good coverage, I feel.
Okay, next one. Do you use CDR technology in analyzing files or just Sandbox?
We use sort of everything that's at our disposal. We use this static decomposition, we use threat intelligence, we use sandboxing, we combine it with other elements from similarity. So it is, as far as our detection, really is like multi-factor. It doesn't really rely on a single technology.
All right. And what channels does RL scan from? Email, Teams, Zoom, chat, Slack. What do we have as far as those things go?
Um, so definitely email, definitely all kinds of file shares you can think of. Uh, Making progress on sort of the Teams and Zoom and whatnot. It is one of the attack vectors that are getting more and more popular. So we are putting some focus on that. And definitely totally fully aware that the more sources we can ingest from, all the better.
All right. All right. And
We
I think that
definitely
was,
see
oh, go
email
ahead.
as a big, we see email as a big deal. We see that email coverage for attachments and other elements of the email are vendors are leaky in the email space. So we see a lot of some of our customers, definitely those financials that are kind of on the forefront, are using us to analyze email. There's definitely a coverage gap there.
Okay. Somebody asked from, what is our maximum number of files that we can scan per day?
The scanning solution is horizontally scalable, so I guess there's no limit. It's kind of what your CM can take. That's what we're seeing is what your sort of downstream infrastructure can take. But you have to scale the whole pipeline, and we can process anything you throw at us, scale it up.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things when I came along that I thought I was just I thought was smart. I've come from other security companies that didn't have the forethought and tend to get a little bottlenecked as they grow. But we've engineered in such a way that we've planned for that and are able to handle what's thrown at us. How does ReversingLabs scanning compare to top line AVs like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, etc.?
Well, first of all, we don't compete with the CrowdStrikes and Sentinel ones. We we will not. Our strategy is not to be on the endpoint, but in terms of the coverage, we are up there. It's obviously one of the parameters, one of the metrics that we use, and to make sure that we have the coverage. So it's very much comparable to leading industry scanners.
Okay. All right, and I think that's all of our questions for today. So I wanna thank everybody for coming out and for listening today. And Igor, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and helping us to better understand.